At 27, an age when most people I knew were busy building careers, maybe saving for a down payment on a condo, or just figuring out their lives, here I was, Maya, a graphic designer, somehow juggling my own aspirations while simultaneously acting as the first national bank of mom, dad, and sis. It wasn't a role I auditioned for, believe me. My older sister, Chloe, had experienced what my mom charitably called a career setback well over a year ago. Translation: she dramatically quit her job after not getting the team lead position she wanted, and had since elevated processing her feelings into a full-time unpaid occupation, subsidized entirely by me. That meant her pricey 4 times a week therapy sessions landed squarely on my credit card statement. Need the utility bills covered? Call Maya, fridge looking emptier than a lecture hall during spring break. Guess who was filling the cart and footing the bill that often topped a couple $100 a pop? The constant financial drain was one thing, but the sheer weight of their dependence, the quiet erosion of my own dreams and savings, was becoming unbearable. It felt like I was treading water in an ocean of familial obligation, the pressure a constant, heavy ache behind my eyes. Seeing the constant strain on my parents was almost as draining as writing the checks. Mom's smile rarely reached her eyes anymore, those little worry lines around them deepening practically overnight, it seemed, and Dad walked around with the permanent weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders, a little heavier after every phone call detailing Chloe's latest job rejection saga, usually because the required commute was longer than 15 minutes, or the office didn't offer free artisanal kombucha on tap. We were all drowning in this quiet desperation, and I knew we needed a lifeline, something bright to look forward to. That's when the seed of an idea took root. Paris. Not just a suggestion, but a fully formed, secretly funded escape plan. Just for them. After clocking out from my own demanding design projects, I'd spend hours online, obsessively researching, determined to craft the perfect Parisian experience. I found this incredible little boutique hotel in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, the kind you see in movies, dripping with charm. For Mom, who'd always wistfully mentioned wanting to really learn French baking, I booked a private pastry-making class. For Dad, a quiet soul who loved a good view and a decent glass of Bordeaux, I reserved a table for 2 on a romantic dinner cruise down the Seine as the city lights twinkled on. I visualized them laughing, holding hands, rediscovering each other away from the cloud of stress back home. It cost a small fortune, naturally, thousands pulled from my own savings, but the image of their unburdened happiness felt like a worthy investment. Life has a funny way of throwing a wrench, or in my case, another car, into your meticulously laid plans. The day before the Paris flight, I was buzzing, a weird mix of pre-trip excitement for my parents and nervous energy about a big client presentation I was heading to. I remember humming along to the radio, mentally reviewing my pitch deck slides, imagining the look on Mom and Dad's faces when I'd surprise them with the tickets later that evening. 1 minute, I was checking my mirrors before a lane change on the highway. The next, there was this deafening screech of twisting metal, an explosive bang that seemed to vibrate through my bones. And then, just blackness. My next coherent memories are fragmented flashes, the wail of sirens getting closer, blurry figures in paramedic uniforms leaning over me, the blinding glare of overhead lights, muffled voices talking about extraction and vitals. When I fully surfaced, it was to the sterile smell of antiseptic and the rhythmic beeping of machines. I was in a bed at St. Jude Medical Center, my body feeling like one giant, throbbing bruise. A doctor with kind but serious eyes explained I'd needed emergency surgery, something about internal bleeding and a fractured femur. Apparently, the airbag had done its job, saving me from the worst, but the other driver had slammed into my passenger side at considerable speed. My meticulously planned Parisian getaway suddenly felt like a distant, impossible dream, overshadowed by the immediate, agonizing reality of pain and confinement. Still groggy from the painkillers, the world swam slightly out of focus. Then, through the haze, I saw them, Mom, Dad, and Chloe, filing into my hospital room. Mom was clutching her new travel purse, the ridiculously expensive one she'd bought specifically for the Paris trip. Seeing it sent a wave of nausea through me, a sickening lurch totally unrelated to the anesthesia. "I'm so sorry," I managed, my voice raspy from the breathing tube I'd had earlier. We'll have to postpone the trip. I'll cancel everything today, get the refunds. We can go when I'm better." I expected sympathy, maybe shared disappointment, but definitely understanding. Instead, my mom's voice, eerily calm, cut through the fog. "Oh, there's no need to cancel anything, honey." I blinked hard, sure the morphine was making me hallucinate. "What?" "Your father and I have been talking," she continued, nervously adjusting the purse strap on her shoulder. We think we should still go. You can rest up here and we'll just take Chloe with us instead." The words hit me with the force of a physical blow, harder than the car that had landed me here. I stared, dumbfounded, waiting for the punchline, for someone to crack a terrible joke. But their faces were serious. "Chloe's been through so much this year," Mom added quickly, patting my sister's arm. "She really needs this break too." Then Chloe, my own sister, stepped closer. "You were supposed to watch the house while we were gone," she said matter-of-factly. "Since you can't now, you'll need to hire someone. Make sure they're reliable." They actually waved goodbye and walked out. Just like that, leaving me alone with the steady, rhythmic beep of the heart monitor and a pain in my chest that had absolutely nothing to do with fractured ribs or internal bruising. This was a different kind of ache, cold and sharp, the sting of utter abandonment. My own family, standing there talking about their vacation while I lay hooked up to machines less than a day after major surgery. They didn't even ask how I was feeling. Not really. It was all about the inconvenience I caused them. I stared at the acoustic tile ceiling for what felt like hours, trying to process the sheer callousness of it. Then, a surge of something that wasn't quite anger, more like icy resolve, flooded through me. "Nurse?" I called out weakly when she passed by again, probably checking why my heart rate was spiking on the monitor. "Could you please get my phone? It should be in my belongings." My hands trembled slightly as she returned with the plastic hospital bag, but my fingers were steady as I pulled out my miraculously undamaged phone. There it was, the email folder labeled Paris Dream, full of confirmations I'd painstakingly gathered. Well, I thought grimly, my thumb hovering over the first cancellation link. If they want to treat me like their personal travel agent instead of their daughter, fine. Agent Maya reporting for duty. Click. The beautiful boutique hotel suite. Gone. Mom's pastry class. Cancelled. Dad's Seine River cruise. Adieu. The private Montmartre guide. The museum passes. One by one, I dismantled the entire trip I had poured my heart and savings into. The last thing left was their return flight. I hesitated for only a second before clicking Cancel Confirmation. A small, admittedly petty part of me wondered how they'd handle figuring out their own way back across the Atlantic. Then I silenced my phone, placed it face down, and closed my eyes. They'd figure it out soon enough. The first notification pinged silently around 3:25 a.m. my time. They must have just landed at Charles de Gaulle, bleary-eyed and expecting their pre-booked luxury, only to hit a wall at the hotel check-in. By the time my meager hospital breakfast arrived, my phone had lit up with 15 missed calls. By lunch, it was 40. The texts piled up, a frantic, escalating stream of confusion, then indignation, then outright panic. "Maya, the hotel has no reservation. What's going on?" Followed by, "Where are the tour confirmations? Answer your phone." And Chloe's charming, "You selfish bitch, you ruined everything." I kept a little tally on a napkin, a morbidly fascinating count. Mom. 25 calls. Dad. 18. Chloe. A whopping 48. Just as I was reading a particularly nasty message from Mom about how disappointed she was, Dr. Arnaud, my surgeon, walked in, his expression stern. "Miss Dubois," he said, gesturing to the relentlessly buzzing phone. "This incessant ringing is unacceptable. This is a hospital. You need rest." Before I could fully explain, it rang again. "Mom." Without hesitation, Dr. Arnaud picked it up. "This is Dr. Arnaud at St. Jude. Your daughter requires absolute rest. Please stop calling." I could hear Mom's shrill voice even from across the room demanding to speak to me now. He hung up curtly. "I'm holding on to this," he stated firmly, slipping it into his pocket. The enforced silence from my phone was, honestly, a relief. The next few days were a blur of physical therapy, pain management, and trying to sleep through the hospital sounds. But just as I was starting to feel profoundly alone, something unexpected happened. A hesitant knock, and then Liam and Sarah from the design team peeked in, grinning conspiratorially. "Contraband delivery!" Sarah whispered, producing actual decent coffee from the cafe down the street, a nectar of the gods compared to the hospital brew. The next day, Ben and Olivia showed up armed with trashy magazines, office gossip, and surprisingly comfortable fuzzy socks. Then my cousin Jenna, who lived about an hour away, drove down with a huge container of homemade chicken noodle soup that tasted like pure comfort. "We've got a rota," Olivia announced proudly, holding up a color-coded spreadsheet on her tablet. "Someone from the office will pop by every day. Can't have our star designer getting lonely, can we?" Tears welled up in my eyes. Actual tears. Not from pain this time, but from gratitude. "You guys... you didn't have to," I stammered. "Oh, please." Liam waved it off. "After all the late nights you've pulled covering for us, this is nothing." Even my boss, Mrs. Evans, usually all business, called the hospital directly. "Maya, don't you worry about a thing work-wise." Her voice was surprisingly gentle. "The accident happened on the way to a client. It's covered. Focus on healing." For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt genuinely cared for, seen not as a resource, but as a person. This was my real family showing up. I was actually having a decent day, feeling a flicker of pride after my physical therapist helped me take a few shaky steps with the walker. When I heard it, the unmistakable rumble of rolling suitcases echoing down the sterile hospital corridor. Seconds later, they burst into my room like a Category 5 hurricane. Mom, Dad, and Chloe, looking disheveled, furious, and still somehow radiating entitlement. "How dare you?" Mom hissed, her face flushed, practically vibrating with rage. Chloe, dragging the designer suitcase I had bought her for Christmas, glared daggers at me. "Look at her!" She spat, gesturing wildly around my private room. "Lying here in a clean bed, getting 3 meals a day, while we suffered in that disgusting dump in Paris. Something inside me, coiled tight for years, finally snapped. Suffered? My voice was dangerously quiet. Let's talk about suffering, shall we? For over a year, I worked myself sick, paying your bills, your therapy, funding your extended vacation from responsibility, Chloe. I planned this trip, paid for it all, as a gift. Then I nearly died, and you left me here. Mom started to protest, but I cut her off. That's when Chloe delivered the final, brutal blow. Besides, she sneered, you might have been disabled after the accident. Then you definitely would have cancelled everything anyway. That's why I told them we had to go while it was still paid for. The air went still. Even Mom looked shocked. Trembling, I reached for the nurse call button. Security, I said clearly into the speaker. I need 3 visitors escorted out immediately, and add them to my restricted list. Watching them being escorted out, Mom sputtering indignantly, and Dad just looking ashamed, felt less like victory and more like a necessary amputation. The next day, I did what I should have done months, maybe years ago. I blocked their numbers, Mom, Dad, Chloe, all of them. Then I logged into my banking app and systematically cancelled every automatic transfer I had set up. No more therapy fund, no more utility bill contributions, no more grocery money funneled into their account. A profound sense of lightness washed over me, like I could finally breathe deeply for the first time in ages. 3 weeks later, I was discharged from St. Jude. My work friends had cleaned my apartment, stocked the fridge, and even left fresh flowers. It felt like a sanctuary. I threw myself into recovery, physical therapy exercises that pushed my limits, slowly easing back into remote work. Then came the day I walked back into the office, cane-free. Instead of awkward silence, I was met with cheers and a massive, "Welcome back, Maya," cake. That same afternoon, an envelope arrived from the insurance company. Sitting there, surrounded by my supportive colleagues, I opened it. The settlement amount for the accident was substantial. More zeros than I had anticipated. That night, curled up on my couch, I opened my laptop. On impulse, I searched for that charming boutique hotel in Saint-Germain-des-Prés. A single room, this time. Smiling, I clicked, "Book now." Then the pastry class, the Seine cruise. I rebooked it all, tailored just for me. This trip wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. So, yeah, that's my story. It took a near-death experience and an act of shocking betrayal to finally wake me up. But the lessons learned were crystal clear. Setting boundaries, even with family, isn't selfish. It's essential for survival. Your self-worth isn't tied to how much you sacrifice for others, especially when they take it for granted. And sometimes, the family you choose, the friends and colleagues who show up with coffee and kindness when you're at your lowest, provides more genuine love and support than the one you were born into. This whole ordeal taught me the power of saying no, the freedom of financial independence, and the absolute necessity of putting your own well-being first. So, what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Have you ever had to make a tough choice like this in your own life? Share your thoughts or your own boundary stories in the comments below. Hearing from you might help someone else feel less alone. If this resonated, please share it, and remember, you deserve respect. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button for more real-life stories and reminders that you're stronger than you think. Thanks for listening.